Folks, welcome to another episode of MetaChop.
Hold up.
Hey. Well, actually, it was good. It was pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Sign us a record deal.
More like Bone Thugs and Harmony than Dr. Dre.
Definitely. Yeah. We're all of a sudden turned into Boys to Men. Yeah. Like we're standing on white sand, playing the violin together, whispering sweet nothings into each other's ears.
It's a typical Tuesday.
Speaking of speaking sweet nothings into each other's ears, I'm Mike Munkachi.
And I'm Alex Munkachi.
And we are going to be... You pronounce yours differently.
Same last name.
You put more of an emphasis on the catchy part.
It is.
I like that. You know what? I just said like I was smelling a really nice stew, and I'm really excited to dig in.
The cookies are done. That's what the Oracle said.
That's right. Smell good, don't they? So today we're going to be talking about a couple things. As we all know, the DC Extended Universe is dead as we know it. They decided to give up on the Ghost. And by the Ghost, I mean the ghost of Robin.
And we're filming outside in Compton right now.
That's right. Those people, the sirens outside are actually just, I don't know why, but the gangsters are now putting sirens on their cars.
They are.
Now, speaking of gangsters, DC.
Yes.
They stole a lot from Marvel. They try to recreate the Marvel Cinematic Universe and make it their own thing and just try to piggyback on what those successes were, and failed.
Absolutely.
What's your theory on why they failed, and also why they're deciding on stepping away from the DCEU?
Well, I think they realize, unfortunately, they don't have enough people in the room, or even maybe the right people in the room to actually come up with the understanding that, universes are hard. They are really hard, and Marvel took a long time. Like, that's dedication on a scale that we've never seen. I think in the history of film, we've never seen dedication to building something.
It's like Stephen Hawking himself constructed it.
I was actually going to say it's more like, what's his name that did, the one with the boy, 10 years of Boy.
Oh, Boyhood?
Boyhood, 10 Years of Boy.
Red Letter Media did a great thing about that, where they're like, it took 12 years to make. It's a masterpiece.
But it's like, but my point with that is that like they did the Richard Linklater approach to Marvel superhero universes. Mm-hmm. And, it reminds me of, and DC basically just did like what people do online, where they'll like take 10 seconds of footage every single day, and they'll superimpose it for after a whole year. It's not the same thing, guys. I'm so sorry. I'm glad that you can actually have the effort and motivation to record 10 seconds of footage every day and make it look like a lot of time has passed, but you are microwaving something that needs to be just in the oven a little bit longer. There needs to be the master plan. There needs to be the Dr. Evil laugh.
You got to chop up those chives. You got to add in those potatoes in the perfect time. You got to let it simmer.
Yes.
And let it just fill the room with anticipation.
Right.
I can't believe they didn't decide to launch the DC cinematic universe with a Batman movie. Mm-hmm. Why they decided to start with Man of Steel is beyond me. And the fact that the first time that we see them both on screen, it's like they're already. It reminds me of what other, like, I think it was the Amazing Spider-Man 2, where they try to also announce the Sinister Six villains at the very end, and that there was this aspect of like, oh, this is a bigger universe, get excited, where it's just you're advertising your toys before people even know to care about these other characters.
And some of that, as far as like Venom trying to kind of skid around having to utilize other intellectual property,
right?
They've realized that they can't really get away with it. You can make an okay movie, with some of the armored trucks are coming by as well.
Yeah, God, they are just martial law. I feel like we're in City 17.
Yeah, but those are super soakers on the top. I was going to say super suckers.
Oh.
It's
your favorite search term, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. What was your question again?
I forgot.
You know, DC try to you know they did kind of like a Spider-Man to Amazing Spider-Man. I should make sure that there's a very big delineation between Amazing Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 2, Amazing Spider-Man 2, and trying to kind of build up and drum up interest for a bigger universe. And they wanted to do it very quickly. And, you know, I mean, case in point, I mean, and everyone and their uncle has talked about this at length, but yeah, there wasn't a Flash movie. There wasn't a Cyborg movie. You know, there was nothing there.
Well,
you know,
yeah, we have Aquaman,
and then that came out way after Justice League.
Yeah, well, and they lost their big Justice League movie before actually
having individual character movies that had like
that's almost the cheat. That's almost the cheat of Marvel is that you have to watch all these other movies before appreciating the Avengers. Because if you just watch the Avengers, you might not know how what the context is for each of these characters.
But then they also have actors that have been playing a character for like a billion years.
Yeah,
like Robert Downey Jr. is legitimately Iron Man. Like in my brain, I feel like he probably goes to sleep in that Stark skyscraper tower, and he probably actually has an Iron Man suit. Probably can fly. Probably can take the role. Like I'm so. Like it's such a seamless integration between character and actor and a particular franchise and IP that it's perfect.
Yeah.
So there's no question.
It's exceptional casting.
So you can watch Avengers and actually you might, without seeing anything else before, and you probably will be lost, but you'll know that these actors they're pretty well versed in these characters.
I think personally I feel like what happened with DC is they gave up on trying to do something different. Like they gave up. I enjoyed Man of Steel. I also enjoyed Batman vs. Superman. And I liked that darker tone that still had some humor in it, that wasn't trying to just piggyback on what Marvel was doing through the lighthearted...
Dark doesn't sell, does it?
Dark used to sell really well and used to be that was DC's bread and butter. I mean, that was Christopher Nolan.
The original Batman.
Right, yeah, Tim Burton.
The original Batman was, the macabre, the dark... not the macabre, but Tim Burton was really big into really dark and mysterious and fantastical in a way. Yeah. But there was no some directors can go so dark that you can't even breathe. It feels like it's so suffocating. Like a Silent Hill kind of thing going on. It was
very dark in the original Tim Burton, but then there was the Michael not Schumacher. That's a freaking race car driver. Joel Schumacher.
Yeah.
Those brightly colored. I always think of neon lights. But and those movies sank it, and then
they did. But I don't know what's more controversial: you liking Man of Steel or me liking for a really dumb fun ride, liking Bat Nipples on Val Kilmer or George Clooney or whatever in Batman Clooney. You would. How do you know this?
I'm sorry. I heard. I was looking I was searching for super suckers.
So Batman was a really great, fun, original franchise. As far as the original, the first movie was great, introducing Batman as a character, building up this whole mysterious sort of thing with a bat signal, and bringing to life a character that, in general, was really like a pulpy B action hero detective, and they made it into something a little bit more dark, a little more serious, a little bit
more dark,
brooding, like a Frank Miller style. And I would love to have seen more of a Frank. And I think that's kind of what happened with the Batman vs Superman was that we got more of a Frank Miller-esque Batman. Which was more it was more of that you would expect from a Sin City character,
more like the animated series,
exactly, where it was a guy who's past his prime. He's fed up with all these criminals going through and doing their crimes. He's marking them, and he's just sick and tired of them coming out of the prison system and doing the same thing. And after a while, it's insanity.
Yeah, it was very much like Watchmen, which I really
it's a great movie.
I really enjoyed it. I think it's in a way it's a masterwork. There's something to be said too about, in my opinion, Ben Affleck's portrayal of Batman. As a great contrast to Tony Stark, portrayed by Robert Downey Jr. Which is so, Tony Stark and Tony Stark is so egotistical and so everything's inflated, But with Ben Affleck's Batman, and it's definitely inflatable. With Ben Affleck's Batman, it felt so like a man who's so rich that the meaning behind his riches has completely like kind of like it all like kind of bled away years and years ago, and all he has is he's clinging to the purpose of trying to cure crime, and he's almost giving up on it, but there is still that little sense of hope.
Yes.
And he goes out there as a vigilante, being the frightening thing that a vigilante in the real world would be seen as, which is, who is this guy running around branding people like and trying to solve crimes? We can't control him. We fear him.
Right.
Whereas Tony Stark is like, I'm Iron Man. Wouldn't people actually care a lot more about like who the hell is this billionaire with these weapons blowing up cities? Like the same concerns are there, but people don't care because it's Robert Downey Jr., the fast-talking billionaire. But they do care a lot more about the destruction of Batman versus Superman, or about Man of Steel in particular, because that darker tone means that people, it actually feels like a real world where people are hurt.
Yeah.
And they get hurt, and Batman hurts them.
Well, I mean, you initially mentioned before in your previous statement, I mean, you sound like it was like you were rehearsing some unreleased My Chemical Romance lyrics about the brooding nature of Batman and, you know, his ways and viewpoints on life, and how everything is so goddamn dark. Mm-hmm. But it's
called The Dark Wing Flies at Night.
Okay.
It's a new album. It's dropping
vinyl only.
Dropping in May on vinyl only.
Okay. It just sounds like a cat getting neutered over and over again.
Exactly. But the weird thing, though, is the record is shaped like a bat.
Okay.
So it's going to play all weird.
But, I mean, think about it. He frees there's these women, I believe, like in a cage in the beginning of Batman vs. Superman.
Yeah.
And he frees them, unlocks them, and they literally, like, they don't leave, and they're looking at him. They're like, "Oh, we're not going to go outside. I know you saved us, but we don't know who you are.
Yeah,
you're flinging around the corners and you're killing people,
and it's terrifying.
Like you're and I think like I can totally appreciate making it into something darker, but I think the number one mistake with a movie like that is it needed to be R.
Yeah, I agree. It needed to go straight into hard, like Spawn,
hard like, R. Like it needed to be more realistic. It needed to have you know what? You're taking the dark and brooding aspects. Like think of Sin City. Sin City as PG-13 would not work. Mm-hmm. You need the violence. You do need this. You know, you need some language. But if you're going to bring about this vision of a darker, you know, more of a depraved superhero who's just fed up with both of his own life and existence, and the fact that he's going through this and he's getting older and he's just getting exhausted.
His partner was murdered years ago.
You can imagine, like, but do kids want to go into a Toys R Us and buy Batflick? You're like, no, they're not. They're not going to want to, you know, do that.
Well, or do parents want to take their kids to watch Ben Affleck blow up a bunch of dudes?
Right. And so, you know, and I think, yet again, Marvel is that wonderfully cute, adorable, Disneyized, easily marketable, easily sellable franchise.
Right.
And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. And they capitalize on levity when it comes down to Robert Downey Jr., the way Christopher Nolan capitalized on some of the humor with Christian Bale when he's like, you know, getting beat up, and then you have you have what is his name? What's
Alfred?
Yeah, what's the actor's name?
Michael Caine.
Michael Caine. You have him kind of having his little witty, and then Lucius Fox with Morgan Freeman. Mm-hmm. You have a lot of the moments.
Did you get the memo?
Like a lot of really funny little moments in there, and it helps to kind of make people more likable and whatnot.
But I do think Jeremy Irons had really great moments too, and I think that
he did. They did.
There were really freaking awesome comedic moments.
Yet again, Jeremy Irons. I think I mentioned this before, but Jeremy Irons playing a super villain in many of his other movies. And then you have Gary Oldman playing supervillain, and you know, it's like what's up with side characters being like also the main crazy villain.
I loved it. I like there were so many little quips like with you could actually when it comes to Ben to Batman.
Ben.
But yeah, to Ben Affleck working as Batman with Jeremy Irons as Alfred. To me, it was a lot more believable that they were partners. They were a team. Michael Caine just seems like the butler that...
Whoa.
Michael Caine seemed like the butler...
more than a butler.
It was a butler who can lift up a log. But that's the thing. Michael Caine seemed like the butler who occasionally would check in with Bruce Wayne as like, "Are you okay there, Christian Bale? Are you like... what we fall. That's really his emotional support.
Jeremy Irons not paid for his ideas,
but Jeremy Irons is right. That's true. It's so he can keep the whole place in tip-top shape. But Jeremy Irons, on the other hand, is the guy in the chair, as said in Spider-Man: Homecoming. He's the guy who's constantly saying, like, you know, he's talking to Batman in his ear while he's on a mission. It actually makes it feel so much more real.
It's just he knows that Batman's going to do whatever he's going to do. And
he's like, oh, maybe you'll find like a lady at this party tonight, and he just says to himself, "In your dreams, Alfred."
Right.
Which I loved. And it's completely lost on most people who just consider it to be dark because the colors are more muted and because visually it is a darker film.
People try to go, like, you know, they try to put Zack Snyder into like an angsty tryhard, and it's unfortunate because I think he's way more than that. Watchmen was a good, relatively faithful adaptation of a graphic novel. Sucker Punch did not help his case very much. But, you know, beyond that, really,
I haven't seen it.
Wasn't exactly a massive issue whatsoever as far as, you know, one way or the other. But, you know, DC, they have the wonderful universe and this incredibly unique and refreshing vision of what happens when someone like, you know, like a Shield. What happens if, like, 50 years from now, 30 years from now, like when they are doing the same thing, if they haven't all died already?
Yeah.
Like, what happens, you know, like with people like that, if they are trying to save the world over and over again?
Yeah.
And, like, what does it do to the psyche? And I feel like you already have Gotham being this wonderful character in of itself. You have this really great way of describing an environment that is destitute, that is just really just clinging to life. Like, they made Gotham, like, Falcone with Batman Begins. They did a good job of trying to make it seem like he was just this, you know, in the back alley kind of a gangster. And they did a good job of trying to showcase, okay, there's crime and it's like that. It did a pretty good job. But I think, like, that's what made Tim Burton's Batman really, really great. It's like you just see fog and smoke, and there's like this crazy. It's like it's almost like an alien world, and you're basically protected by a thin sheet of glass of wherever you live, whatever apartment or building you live in, from the nastiness of human nature on the outside.
Yeah, and it's much more dark. It's much more believable as being the people's viewpoint of a place of, like, if you make under. You know, basically it takes $100,000 a year to be homeless in New York City, but it's basically like the normal person's life in a city like that. That's what you see on the streets, as opposed to, I mean, the contrast of the Marvel universe, where anything that takes place in any city looks like a promotional video for that city. It's beautiful.
But do dark movies sell?
I think they do. They make a ton of money. Batman versus Superman made a shit ton of money. Man of Steel made a lot of money. I mean, Batman versus Superman is I think the most successful Batman movie of all time.
Yeah. So
I think they do sell, but what I think happened is because there are so many haters on DC, and they say Marvel does better. They did a super cinematic universe. It does take a lot, and you're just trying to, like, catch up. And like I myself have said it. I know that, like, you know, you and I have talked about it before. They decided instead to lose faith in what their original vision was.
Why was Batman vs Superman so weirdly just drawn out and you know, pulled into the light and then made an example of by critics as an example of how not to do the superhero formula? What is it about that film that made people feel like I get having strong opinions for or against anything? I will totally respect and can appreciate, while not necessarily agreeing with someone if they have a polar opposite one of the view, but I can at least understand it, and I love that, you know, dissenting points, you know, of contrast as well. But what is it about having a particular revulsion of that one movie? What is it about it that is so, like,
purists? I think people who have a singular opinion of who Superman is, and a singular opinion of who Batman is.
And Marvel did something kind of amazing to me. This is where Kevin Feige, I think it's all the should
Kevin Feige, yeah.
What? It's 2018. We don't use that word. But it's one of those things where, like, you know, he had 18 movies where he was able to appease the hardest base in the world.
But you know why, though? It's because he didn't have the license for all these characters, so he decided, I'm going to take these are undervalued characters.
It's 2019, by the way.
Oh, that's
Timestamp.
Right. timestamp. He he took Iron Man, which nobody really cared about. And like Thor, nobody gave a shit about Thor. Like almost all the characters weren't big.
Put likable people in them.
Put likable people as these characters. Find what makes these characters interesting. And that way, even the purists who've been following the comics for a long time are like, "Oh my God, Iron Man is the biggest movie in the world right now." I would never have seen that. Like wouldn't have seen that coming.
No,
because it's not Wolverine. That's not that's not Spider-Man. Like these are smaller characters, and Thor was just like, Thor was basically He-Man.
Yeah.
So I think, but with DC, you've got just really big characters with backstories and like 50, 60-year histories. Batman himself. I mean, I think people were railing against the fact that Batman was killing people, and they were railing against the fact that that Christopher Reeve had died, and that Superman had evolved to become something more of a person who might have some emotional issues because he's the last person from his race completely. Talking about finding out you're adopted.
But comic books also they always get darker.
Talk about finding out that you're adopted.
Yeah.
You find out that you're the rest. Like it is a really dark concept of knowing that you're not only adopted and you're orphaned on the planet, but the very person or the group of people coming from your planet are arriving, and you have to kill them and the hope for your species to protect the planet that you just so happen to have been sent to.
Yeah.
Like that's
like some Spaceballs level stuff.
It's definitely, I mean, it's all about the Schwartz. There's something beautiful though about taking those chances.
They're combing the desert.
We're combing the desert.
We ain't find shit.
We ain't find shit. The radar, it's jammed. Darth helmet. But I liked that it tackled it kind of like we were talking the previous episode about a previous episode about Avatar, about how it took a beautiful opportunity and it instead told it told in the beautiful world of Pandora, in a beautiful mind, it told a traditional story.
Well, he was the father, right?
What's that?
He was the father.
Russell Crowe. That's right. And Ron Howard directed Solo. And there's something to be said, though, about how Batman versus Superman was attempting to tell a story that was more nuanced. And it was because the story was more complicated than it had to be, that audiences decided, you know what? I just want to see Batman do Batman things and Superman do Superman things. Give me what I already know, because otherwise I'm going to rebel.
There was no... But then again, I think of Freddy vs. Jason. There was no backlash about...
There was a lot of backbending.
That's true. But it's like... there was just I don't understand how that can go against... Frank Miller's Batman's so dark. Why are people just what are they... What are they looking at?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what do they want out of Batman if not this guy who's got serious issues?
Do they want? My question to you is: do they want DC to become Marvel light, to become super, just levity, just light on its feet, potentially forgettable in an afternoon, just kind of a 2 hour? There's a lot less. You can waste your way. Waste your. Wow, I'm ruining this friggin' this.
It's okay. No, it's okay.
You can. There's more ways to waste your 2 hours than this or something, right?
I think that's right.
A bad way, right?
I think you're right though.
But that's what were they going for? What are the people trying to say? That Superman should be like Man of Steel, or it should be like the one with Brandon Routh that we don't talk about, that was 7 hours long?
Yeah, Superman Returns.
By Bryan Singer?
With Kevin Spacey. Well, that's a whole lot of bad characters.
So that's...
He's talking about the real villain.
The reason why we don't talk about it. No, but that's... And Kevin Spacey played Dr. Evil.
That's right. He basically does play Dr. Evil.
No, in the very beginning of Goldmember, there's that moment where there's the fake action sequence in the very beginning where he flips over the helicopter and then he lands, and then it's actually the pan up and it's Tom Cruise playing Austin Powers, and then Gwyneth Paltrow playing it was the fake movie intro.
Wait, Pepper Potts was in it too?
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
And then Dr. Evil was Kevin Spacey, and then Danny DeVito was Mini-Me.
That's a really good point, though, because
I only talk about relevant movies.
I know, Goldmember is lighting the world on fire right now. Everyone's talking about it. It's trending on Twitter.
Well, I just recently watched those movies again. That's why.
I also recently watched the first one and I loved it.
The third one had a lot of actors. It had Spielberg. It had everyone in there.
It was a sensation. It like helped. It helped. I think that movie. That movie ended the 90s.
But the DC should follow Austin Powers, or what?
I think DC should completely remake itself in Austin Powers' image.
Now,
I mean, Austin Powers ruined 007, as stated by the people who work on the James Bond movies. Just to go back though for 1 second, Superman Returns. You have what everyone wants. You have somebody who's Brandon Routh, a lookalike of Christopher Reeve, essentially playing the same character that Christopher Reeve did, who's kind of happy-go-lucky, relaxed, sort of like chill, and then turns into this superhero that's just sort of blandly good. He's positive without any backstory of being orphaned.
Superman is one of the most boring characters known to man.
And that's why...
He is more vanilla than Captain America, but let's stop this. I love Chris Evans, and don't get me wrong, Chris Evans had his moments earlier on, and before he's Captain America, like in The Losers and whatnot, he's really funny. Mm-hmm. But my God, he becomes an Abercrombie and Fitch freaking mannequin.
Yeah, I mean,
with the same personality to boot.
He tried to grow a beard to get rid of it. Can't do that.
No, it's like he's a vacuum of charisma. Like there's nothing there, and it's like I get it. He looks like a superhero. And he has the body and all that stuff, but it's like, and a lot of the charm and the funny kind of irreverence towards, just being wacky, I guess, almost Jim Carrey.
Blast from the Past, Brendan Fraser, basically. Yeah. He's Frozen. I mean, basically, let's be honest.
Some Austin Powers, he was Frozen as well.
I know, I'm talking, exactly. Captain America is Austin Powers. He's frozen for decades.
Yes.
And then he was thawed out. Evacuation, come. Complete.
But I don't know. I think people want Superman to be just that. They want to just be vanilla.
I think people want Superman to be DC's Captain America. I think they want DC to just be.
He's just good for the sake of good.
Yeah, that's right. I'm here to save you. Hey, Lois.
Hey, it's a bird. It's a plane.
It's bland.
It's banned
superhero.
1 week. What?
It's been. Bring back BNL.
Batman naked.
Bare naked ladies. But anyway, yeah, and also Batman naked. That was a bit of a Freudian slip there, Al. Bring back Batman naked. It'd actually be BMN, but no.
But it's
no. There's no recovery from that. But there's something beautiful. There's something beautiful that DC decided. I mean, first of all, we have Christopher Nolan to thank for a lot of the grittiness of Batman. He laid the perfect foundation.
He wrote that perfect line that's like you have to use a micron telescope to see how he did it so effortlessly.
Or from the air.
Gritty.
We're going airborne.
Gritty. Well, we're going mobile, but I guess you might have said that though. You can adapt his voice to anything.
You can. No, it's on the record. Al, you correcting my very deep cut quote from that movie.
It's the most popular one. No, but think about that. Chris Nolan was darker, brooding superhero movie, but it wasn't actually physically dark. It wasn't like a gritty. It wasn't like a Watchmen or whatnot. It wasn't this. My question now is that the Batman sounds like it's going to be going even darker. So are they just
and recasting? And some really interesting characters are in play to play Batman. John Krasinski.
What?
Zac Efron.
You're kidding me.
But the front runner though right now.
Jeffrey Rush.
Mike Myers.
Oh, okay. I would do Jeffrey Rush. Is Barbossa as Batman? I mean the Monkey Jack.
DC decides, all right, our most popular character of all time was the Joker, so let's make all of our characters the Joker. Let's put a smile on that face. That's one of my favorite clips from The Office.
I think villains. I think it'd be really good to have a villain, like someone who is capable. I think that's why Joaquin Phoenix would be a really interesting example for the Joker movie.
I think the Joker has every
Unhinged.
possibility.
You need Unhinged, but you don't want 30 seconds.
Jared Leto.
What's the
30
name?
Seconds to Mars.
I forgot how many seconds there were.
Weird, yeah, it's a weird band name.
Everyone thinks of Jared Leto from Dallas Buyers Club and all that stuff too, but I honestly just think of him and one of the Wayans brothers pushing a TV down the street in the beginning, walking for a dream.
Hey, that's what Joaquin is doing. Also, I feel like DC is about to become a dumpster fire with people being confused as to like what's happening when, what's this? Because now there's going to be a Jared Leto Joker movie too.
That they got to cut that out.
They have to. Well, I'm so much less interested in Jared Leto as Joker.
I want a microphone in the boardroom and to hear how these ideas that sound bad on the face can even be remotely explored, let alone greenlit.
But how about this though? Suicide Squad 2, James Gunn, is he still doing it, or did he leave it?
I don't know the recent. I thought he was still on. I know that Guardians 3 that they're going to be using his script.
Right. Well, no, I heard that they scrapped it.
They did?
Yeah. And also, Taika Waititi is not going to be directing.
Marvel's... That's probably... I think perhaps the biggest misstep that Marvel has made.
I think that's the biggest misstep in entertainment history.
That's pretty big.
It is big, but then again, Guardians of the Galaxy has made over $1 billion.
Yeah.
And to fire someone over tweets from forever ago, you and I could both be fired from future projects based on what we've recorded on our podcast.
Todd Phillips, though, directing Batman or directing Joker, is going to be interesting. Yeah,
you just never know. I mean,
what's funny? You never know, but it's like if it's bad, people are like, "Oh, what did you expect?" But if it's good, people are like, "Wait a second."
Right? It's like Heath Ledger. People are like, "Wait, A Knight's Tale?"
Well, I'm talking about as a director, not as an actor.
I'm talking about as Heath Ledger. Okay.
No,
don't spit on his grave. You already did that with Michael Jackson.
He doesn't really understand.
And Michael J. Fox, prematurely. He's not dead yet.
Mm-mm.
He will be.
I just want to say that, he, with the Joker movie, we'll see what happens. We'll see if there's any real big revelations and they want to take it totally in a different direction. But
from what I've seen so far, I think it looks pretty stellar.
He just has no experience whatsoever with superheroes, CGI.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I mean, a little guy named James Gunn did a pretty good job, and he came from doing Scooby Doo and Monster.
I don't know if you remember this, but Scooby Doo actually was revolutionary for the CG at the time in 2000 and 2001.
All right, that's a quote. Quote 2019 Alex Bonketchi. Scooby Doo was revolutionary.
Yeah, back in 2001, there was a behind the scenes featurette where Rowan Atkinson, who plays the bad guy in Scooby Doo, was actually looking at a big red upholstered chair where Scooby Doo was held hostage, and they talked about this sequence where he had to make eye contact with something that was not there.
Yep.
And they talked about, I think it was it Weta that worked on it? I forgot what it was. Might have been. It was one of the biggies.
Yeah. Who made Scrappy? I just need to know who made Scrappy.
But it's funny because they're like, imagine I always think the Scooby Doo.
Can't take my eyes off of you. Will Forte is playing Shaggy in the new one. It just came out today.
I didn't know that Matthew Lillard was like 50.
Yeah, people have gotten older. It's that Scooby Doo came out 17 years ago.
That's insane.
He was
47.
Yep, when the original one came out.
It's crazy.
He was born to play it. I feel like he's so old that that Shaggy from the animated show was actually modeled after Matthew Lillard.
Honestly, I there's some actors you compare to, like when I look at Matthew Lillard, I see 13 Ghosts.
I see 13 Ghosts, and then I quickly am reminded of Shannon Elizabeth in 13 Ghosts.
I think of 13 Ghosts, and I think of Ghost Ship, and I think of like this weird. There has to be the same
Scream?
Production. Oh, it was the same. It was the same production company. I think they did Ghost Ship and 13 Ghosts. I think it was. what was the name of it? It was like,
Dimension?
not Dimension. They did Scream. Dimension used to be a big player in horror movies.
Well, it's Disney owned, right?
Oh, is it now?
Or no, Miramax. I'm thinking about Miramax.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I do think that...
DC, do you think they're going to want to go light or dark? What are you going to go for? Double down on dark?
I think they're going to double down on being the HBO to Marvel's Disney. I think they're going to basically say, all right, Marvel, you do the kid stuff. We're going to make superhero movies for adults. If they're smart, that's what they would do.
Haven't they tried doing that before?
I think they have, and I think they've actually experienced a lot of success doing it. I think Aquaman made quite a bit of money for them. And I think I'm very excited for Wonder Woman 1984.
Except for Wonder Woman and Aquaman were both anti-DC movies. They were very much they were going against the grain of what people were expecting from a Zack Snyder helmed.
I agree. Well, Aquaman, especially with all the yeahs.
Think about Kevin, what's his name?
Feige.
He's not a director. He's not a writer. He's a producer. But he was the mastermind.
Yeah, he's a Matrix mastermind. He's the architect.
Legitimately the architect. And DC gave the reins of an entire company to a single director with a very specific vision. 300 didn't blow it up at the box office. So I don't know what exactly they saw in someone who had a very specific vision.
That's the problem, though, is I actually feel like they put it in the right hands.
He was good visually, but I don't know if he's a great storyteller.
I feel like he is. But I think that maybe his method of directing that really speaks to me. I think when
Gerard Butler.
Okay. But I think what happens is when you try to then put out an Aquaman movie where the main character is like, oh yeah, all the time, it's sort of like trying to be cool. Trying to be hip, but also appearing to be very dated. I feel like that movie is potentially going to age poorly. Whereas I think Zack Snyder and Patty Jenkins, I think, make the perfect duo, because Patty Jenkins, I think, is DC's superhero. I think she has the ability to turn it around, because I think Zack Snyder is a great director. But I think the writing should go to Patty. Patty should write. Snyder should direct. People say that, I hate the slow motion used in Zack Snyder movies. I've loved all the Lord of the Rings movies, and that is if you had everything at regular speed in Lord of the Rings, each movie would be an hour and a half long.
You think I think people... Okay, so...
Oh, an incredible amount of slow-mo.
The movie that you actually... What's funny is that the one movie that you have not seen that is probably one of the main reasons why people go... they point to this is Sucker Punch, where the first 5.5 minutes is music and slow motion. It's basically a music video. Mm-hmm. And people, there's no dialogue. There's nothing.
Slow motion is so great.
And slow motion's great, but... Zack Snyder, I guess, Peter Jackson does slow-mo for, people running, people having everything. Combat.
Running, sitting, talking, walking, Frodo.
Sitting? Yeah. Sitting, there's nothing happening.
Everything, just slow motion.
Everyone's just sitting and there's a camera moving slowly around them.
If the scene where Gandalf is attacked by that enemy from Mortal Kombat and pulled off the cliff... And he says, "Fly, you fools!"
Zack Snyder.
If that was regular speed, it would be so much less dramatically impactful.
Zack Snyder reminds me of the guy who did the what's it called? Who did the one movie? Oh my god, Cell.
Oh,
Tarsem.
Yeah, one of those one-name guys.
Tarsem's singer. I don't remember what the fuck his name.
He did The Fall as well.
The Fall, and he also did Immortals. And Zack Snyder reminds me a little bit of that as far as the kind of the mentality of he likes fabrics in slow motion. He likes the shimmering of light.
Yeah, I love it.
He likes crystallization of glass or water droplets. Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, it's great, but I think
it is great. People chat all over Batman vs. Superman because they said, I don't want to see another Batman origin story.
Well,
it's the freaking intro credits. That's it. And then it's done.
Yeah.
It's the most truncated intro, like origin story, that I've seen of a superhero character.
We also love origin stories. Like, let's not kid ourselves. Like, we rewatch the same characters getting killed over and over again. Like Tom Hanks's dad. I was gonna say Day After Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah. What's that one? What's the day after tomorrow?
The Day After Tomorrow? Yeah, the one about where like New York is frozen and there's really bad looking wolves.
But you like the special effects on that one.
I liked the ice special effects, but the wolves look terrible. Jake Gyllenhaal.
That's right, Jake Jelly was in here, wasn't it?
Yeah, Jelly was, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Jack Black was somewhere in there too.
Usually.
Yeah,
usually in the background, an extra.
Yeah, he wasn't on camera. He was.
But I still think the Peter Jackson doing slow motion of people sitting is actually really funny because there's literally no kinetic action. It's just like a pointless camera that just goes slowly.
All of my favorite sequences.
I like slow mo as well.
Are are in slow mo.
John Woo does good slow mo.
He does. Whenever there's a dove, he just like, all right, let's under crank this. Let's. Yeah. I really want to see the fabric, I want to see the feathers on these birds.
The fabric
on these birds. They're fake birds. Can you believe
they're
that?
called carpet birds, Mike.
Carpet birds?
No,
it sounds like a slur. It's 2019, Al.
It does sound like a carpet. Yeah. Carpet bird.
But I do think I think
now
DC doing different movies and fragmenting.
Now, my question here to you, because this was the next point as well that we were going to discuss. You're mentioning that the Batman, the Bats, is what they should call it.
The Matt Reeves movie.
They should call it Bats. And just have
that's a movie,
Harley,
Bats. It's the upside down bats.
Have Harley Quinn actually say the name too.
Speaking of Harley Quinn, did you see
Mr. J?
Margot Robbie just
yeah, I know birds of a feather.
Birds of prey. Yeah,
birds of feather flock fabricated.
So anyway, she just posted a photo on her Instagram.
I don't. Okay, my point is though, is the darker you're saying that Batman's going to go darker. But then what's going on with Wonder Woman?
No, I'm not saying that it will go darker. I'm saying that if they were smart, that they would keep...
Because Wonder Woman dark. Looks like they're going to go light. They're going to go light.
Yeah, Wonder Woman does look like they're going to go light.
DC looks like they're confused. That's what that looks like.
I think what it means... is like... I mean, we saw it so clearly, too, in Batman vs. Superman, where it's like... Metropolis is all bright and shiny, and then Gotham, which is across the river that I never even noticed... is really dark. It's like, what's up with these different tones?
Kind of reminds me of the movie version of Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events, where like their kids are orphans. They go to their aunt's house, which I think is what's her name that won 1 billion awards? I can't think of her name. The female actress.
Dakota.
She's an older Meryl Streep. She's the mother.
God.
And they're like
from Dakota Fanning to Meryl Streep.
And yeah, it's really funny. Like the kids go to this one house that's beautifully cheerful and everything, and they're like, "Oh no, you're gonna be spending time with Olaf." You know,
I remember too.
And they do a 180, and the house across the street, like everything is dead. There's a dead tree, and it's like so dramatic. It reminds me of that.
It is quite a bit like that, and I will never forget the part where they pull open drawers looking for food. They find old pasta and make it, and it's edible.
The guy strapped to a train. They got really dark with that movie.
I liked,
which I love.
I remember I enjoyed it.
I really liked it.
In a way of like, it's like a food that's good enough to eat once, but you're not going to revisit it. That's kind of how I felt watching that really long titled movie. I can't believe how long that fucking title is. Lemony Snicket's and the Series of Unfortunate Events.
Did you watch the TV series?
You almost have to take a breath in between the... I remember it was a book series.
Yes.
It was very good and beautifully illustrated.
But Wonder Woman going... So you think they're going to go light? They're going to go light, and then Batman's going to go dark? Then what's going to happen when they meet?
I think
the world's going to explode.
I think what's going to happen is they're going to find themselves in sort of a middle ground. Critics liked Justice League more than they liked Batman vs. Superman. League...
Critics exactly liking one over another is not wonderfully high praise.
No, I mean, but audiences also, I think, liked Justice League more.
And why are people demanding the cut, the Snyder cut so much right now if they love it?
I think it's because it's like breaking up with someone that everyone told you was bad for you, and then after you break up with them, realizing
is it bad, or is it because the connotation of the person? I'm not going to go along with that particular.
Why?
Because it's confusing. But I would
no,
say,
it's not. It's like, oh, you need to break up with him because he's really dark and brooding, and then you break up with him and you realize, oh, he's actually a really awesome person.
So the fanboys for DC, you don't think they are against Whedon because he's responsible for Avengers and responsible for a lot of Marvel movies? He's Marvel. It's like you know,
he is
he's the enemy.
He's part of Marvel in the same way James Gunn is a huge part of Marvel. You know?
James Gunn's Marvel, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're saying that Joss Whedon is Marvel.
Right. Because
and that, like, he helped create the tone of Marvel.
No, yeah. And then he's going over and working on a DC project, and people don't like that idea of almost like a tampering of, it's like Disney and himself is walking and working and reshaping a film.
Yeah, it's like J.J. Abrams doing Star Trek and then doing Star Wars. It's like people crossing the beams.
He had to have bought. I think it's probably a necessity. You buy at least one yacht when that happens.
He probably got himself a couple slave Leias, but I think there is something kind of special about. I think Joss Whedon hopping over to DC. I mean, that was a really unique circumstance. That was really unfortunate. But that
I don't have anything against Whedon. I'm just saying that, like.
I don't think the tone was right for the movie, and I feel like
there was humor and levity because he understands that levity and humor is one of the reasons why Marvel has been doing well and DC's not, because DC is absent.
He dumbed it down. Like, I feel like what Whedon did, and I don't know all of what Whedon contributed. I haven't seen a cut where it's like scene by scene. This was Whedon's scene. This was Snyder's scene. But I feel like the humor that Whedon added dumbed down the characters and made them way too light and way too like. Samey. They all sounded kind of the same.
But then you said that Justice League was the one that people liked the most.
Yeah, because I think people liked the visual levity of it, and like, oh, I can tell this person's a character who's
now
funny.
They're going to go, because they did well and because it was light and they found that light sells. They're going to go dark again.
That is my opinion of what would really help the DC universe.
That sucks for DC. They have no idea what to do.
Well, I mean, Batman is their superstar, and Batman is a dark character. Parents are murdered. I mean, you don't even really hear about Tony Stark. Never talks about his parents. You know,
he's the one guy from Mad Men.
Yeah,
he was with Christina Hendricks.
No, you're right. They're exactly like that. It's exactly like the guy in Mad Men who's with Christina Hendricks. But that's the part of what makes DC like. DC is given an opportunity to not be Disney. Like, Marvel is Disney, so they have to make movies that basically play to the broadest audience in the world. But I think there's a group of adults, myself included, who would like to watch movies that have superheroes in them that are grounded more in real.
That argument falls apart when you factor in Netflix.
What do you mean?
Daredevil was a dark series for Marvel,
and it's canceled. Because Disney is taking all of their properties from Netflix and putting them onto their own
successful
streaming.
Marvel, when they go dark, like Daredevil was dark, Punisher was dark, like Jessica Jones,
Gotham's dark.
Nick Cage, not Nick Cage, Nick Fear. What's his name? Fear. What's Luke Cage?
Luke Cage.
Jesus, but
Iron Fist.
But
Jessica Jones,
and Daredevil and Punisher, they were all darker shows. Like darker, nothing quite as bleak as a traditional Snyder-esque DC production, but close.
But also, I mean, the
first one, especially the first season of Daredevil.
Sure, yeah, and we'll see what Disney does now that it's gone. Now that Daredevil and all those series are gone.
Like I said, it's gone over their platform. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows that.
Not everybody.
Everyone. It was literally one of the highest rated TV series right now. Is like Daredevil. It's ridiculous. People freaking love that show.
Have you watched it?
Yes.
What did you think of it?
Daredevil, the TV series?
Yeah.
Impeccable.
It's
by one of your Reeves.
He's dead, Al. Christopher Reeves is dead.
No, Matt Reeves.
That's right, yeah. Who's doing the next Batman?
Right, he did the whole first season, and it was impeccably shot. You have Edgar from Men in Black as Kingpin.
Right.
What's his name?
He's also from The Cell.
Right. What's his name? What's his name?
Moving on, but no, I'm kidding. No, what is his name?
I don't remember. But I mean, like Kingpin, like there's a sequence with the original, like with the Daredevil TV series where Marvel flexes and they show exactly the extent of the brutality where Kingpin literally kills a man with a door.
I get that, but it's also
like beheads a man with a door until blood and shit's coming just gushing out.
I also don't think about Netflix, like streaming or television like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or Captain whatever.
But what a risky bet for a darker. I mean, obviously they
potentially, but they had 18 movies and they're all light. They're all light.
No, I know.
And like this TV series, I mean, you could say the same thing. DC has actually done light before with The Flash. You know, and The Flash ran for a really long time. And they have Gotham, which is obviously darker.
They had a Flash TV series. They never made it into a movie before preemptively launching Justice League.
Well, but they also didn't make Daredevil into a movie.
They did. No one talks about it.
Well, nobody wants to talk about it because Ben Affleck decided to change clothes and become Batman.
Right. And they did make a movie with Electra movie with Carmen Electra. I thought that was good.
Very true. She died gloriously at the hands of Bullseye, played by Colin Farrell.
It was the North. I can't think of his name.
Jesus Christ.
No, I don't think JC was in that one.
It's an interesting point though that when it comes to TV versus film, Marvel and DC kind of swap places in a way.
And when Marvel goes dark, they do gangbusters. DC, when they go light, they do well. So, but I think the properties, like Batman as an intellectual property, is a darker property. It's not going to be light and airy. It's not about a teenage kid struggling with his identity and fitting in and getting bitten by a radioactive spider.
That's why I think it'd be
it's about a detective who literally gets killed. His parents get killed. I mean, I guess the canon is confused whether or not the parents get killed by the Joker.
Right.
There was the whole thing about that. Mm-hmm. And it's a
like
darker,
in the original Batman movie, he's killed by, I don't know if it's not Jack Nicholson.
Oh, I don't know who's that.
It's some other dude.
No, who's? Oh, I think you said Jack Nicholson.
Jack Nicholson, yeah.
Okay,
that's my alter ego.
Yeah,
that's my supervillain name.
It's but I've always, it is interesting to see where they're going. Now, Wonder Woman's going to go light, and if Wonder Woman goes light and everything goes, because Captain Marvel,
we don't know. We don't know exactly.
There's a good chance.
I don't know. She Patty Jenkins did World War II really nicely.
They did, and it was dark and light, and it was a good balance. Mm-hmm. It was the grittiness. It had like the Spielberg or Ridley Scott-esque, like let's throw dirt at the screen to make sure there's some really nasty like particle effects and whatnot. Let's make the actual image itself look relatively grimy and dirty and show like this gleaming shield as she rises up to face the battlefield.
Yeah, it's like Captain America, but better.
Yeah.
It's the original Captain America, but done better with a shield and everything.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's why I just find myself kind of rooting for the underdog. I think they have an opportunity to do some really interesting things.
I think Batman, the reason why it has legs, why the Joker as the villain has legs is because, unfortunately, the only thing that doesn't have legs is Sully from Avatar.
Right, yeah. But he gets them, right?
Sort of.
But they still don't work?
They don't work.
What happens?
Zoe Saldana eats them.
Oh, she
turns green, renames herself Gamora, and goes into witness protection.
But then she goes and dies anyway. Spoilers.
But it's I think DC has a lot of decisions, a lot of choices that they're gonna have to make because they're trying to cater to a particular crowd, and the crowd, I don't know if they're trying to go for an 18 to 35-year-old crowd or if they're going for an older crowd. But I think that if they want to go dark, they're gonna have to go R. That's my opinion.
Well, with the success of movies like Deadpool, there's a real
absolutely.
There's a push,
and that's another phenomenal example.
Like there's that push.
Daredevil or
Deadpool.
There's too many D's. Like,
are there?
Never enough. But
never enough.
Deadpool. That's Marvel, right? Yeah.
Deadpool's Fox, and now, should that merger actually go through, will be part
Because he makes
of
fun of
Marvel.
Wolverine all the time.
Right. And
So-
that is the theory right now, is that in a future Avengers movie, perhaps Endgame.
Can you believe that Hawkeye, they made us believe that Jeremy Renner, who is been on 7 tours of Afghanistan as a guy of a bomb defusal squad,
Yeah.
is just a superhero because he knows how to fire a bow and arrow.
Also, he's a physicist in Arrival. And then somehow, he goes out and fights crime.
Oh, I thought you were talking about The Arrival. No. My brain went to a very strange place.
A place with a nice sheen to it.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I feel like, Jeremy Renner, in my mind, is very similar to Sam Worthington. He's just kind of like he had a lot of promise in his earlier career, but now I just kind of see him as being like, I don't know.
Does Sam Worthington have any promise in his early? What movie was this? Jeremy Renner was in The Town. He was also in.
That's what I'm saying. Earlier career
in The Hurt Locker.
That came out 30 years ago, Al. They came out 30 years ago.
And not only that, though, but
The Town is a great movie. Also directed by Ben Affleck.
Catherine Bigelow won over her husband, James Cameron.
She did a great job in.
If I were DC, I'd probably or Marvel, I'd throw a property at her.
I would too.
She knows how to direct. A lot of people for whatever reason like to dislike her because she's, I don't know, a woman. I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know the hatred that she gets for Zero Dark 30.
I didn't realize that she was getting any hatred.
Just weird animosity towards people.
That's weird.
It is weird, but
I feel like she's pretty beloved. At least she's pretty much untouchable.
I think I don't know. Maybe it's because people were not liking the fact that Hurt Locker won over Avatar 2009.
I didn't like Zero Dark 30 nearly as much as I liked Hurt Locker. Even though Hurt Locker is less realistic, according to another bomb disposal expert who was...
And they survived?
Survived, but also like worked in Afghanistan. You know how like you bring in an expert and they're like, oh, everything that was done is completely different from the reality.
Did they have an expert from Pandora?
They did, yeah, and he said that...
Everything is inaccurate?
He said that it was the technique used for the braid connection, which is just way too.
I was going to say,
different.
that's one little side here is the fact that all of the copied ideas.
Here we go.
All of the copied ideas from Fern Gully and Pocahontas and whatnot, and the only original edition is a rapey ponytail.
It's how they have sex.
James Cameron. The reason why that's a totally original James Cameron.
Let's be honest, though, Al. The porn industry took that and said, we're going to do it our way.
Exactly. We're going to have some creative license here.
Mm-hmm. We're going to just, let's just say that little mating scene is a bit longer.
But it's like, it is funny how that works, though. Because that was the one original addition to that entire property, like from a storytelling perspective. But I think that DC, in many ways, maybe you just brought up a good point even with Avatar. Avatar was trying to find the widest possible audience, and they relatively inoffensive. They had like an environmentally friendly sort of an outlook and everything.
It's not white people or black people. It's blue people.
It's blue lives matter, all that stuff too. So but I think DC, they're going to have to straddle a very finicky line, and I actually do not. I know there's a lot of directors out there that have been approached for a bunch of franchises, and they're like, we don't really know, like, we don't feel comfortable, especially with Guardians and Marvel.
I think the Raid director's going to be working on something for DC.
Ray?
The Raid director.
I was going to say Ray. That would be really random.
The director of Ray.
He's like, Will Smith did a great job as Ray Charles.
Oh, yeah, and Will Smith's out in Suicide Squad 2 as Deadshot. He just quit. He said he wants to do After Earth 2.
Are you serious?
No. Nobody wants to do After Earth 2.
Will Smith.
Mm-hmm. With a will, there's a way. It makes an issue because whenever Will Smith walks away from a project, it suffers.
Or it becomes the greatest thing in the world. Like Matrix and Lord of the Rings and...
Yeah, I can't even imagine what it'd be like Will Smith as Neo.
or he was in Lord. I mean, literally.
Will Smith as Neo with Russell Crowe as Morpheus. How weird.
Yeah.
Well,
but
folks,
I think Avatar. I think DC. They're gonna have to make some big decisions, and with Captain Marvel coming up, I think they're gonna have to really know what style they want to go for. Otherwise, we're gonna be seeing some very disjointed movies with very different atmospheric. You know, your one's gonna be like Silent Hill, the other one's gonna be like the Teletubbies, and I don't know which one's which anymore.
It'll be like the old way that superhero movies were made, which is like every movie is in its own little silo. By hand. Folks, speaking of by hand, we gotta go and slap it. So,
well, no, but I want to make some predictions here, because I would like to know what your perspective is on this, and what your rating is of Captain Marvel. What do you think? It's gotten good buzz.
It's good advance feedback from critics who have watched it. I think the review embargo is still up as of right now.
Yep.
And it is March 2nd as of the time that we're recording this. But I think overall, it's going to slot really well into the Marvel universe. And from what it sounds like, Brie Larson is very, very good as the titular character.
She's just a character. You don't have to. We already know she's one.
The titular. But I think I think she has I think the movie has promise. I'm going to try not to judge the book by its cover, because I haven't been completely blown away by the trailers. But from what I've read about what the story is really about, it actually sounds very interesting.
Do you think above or below 80?
I think it'll be above 80. I think the movie's likely going to sit at around 87%.
Okay.
What about you?
I think a lot of hands have been put into the pot here, testing out the spaghetti sauce. Maybe adding a little bit more more cumin, a little bit more salt and pepper, maybe a little bit of oregano.
I'm sorry, you mispronounced cumin.
And I think they're gonna add a little bit more. But I think Brie Larson, given the fact that there have been multiple trailers and they've been really quite bad, I think I'd give it like a 72, maybe 73.
Wow, that would be the lowest rated Marvel movie ever.
I think it's a little bit. I think it would be. It's up there with like Ant-Man, right? First Ant-Man.
I think the first Ant-Man got. Well, are we talking audience score or are we talking critic score?
Critic score.
Because I like going by the audience score nowadays. It's more realistic, and I think it's more closely aligned with the people.
I like to go by my own score.
Well, why don't we just settle the score right now, damn it. Chow Yun Fat, grab the saber. Oh, he just tired himself out.
Unbelievable.
Well, I think, let's see here. So you're saying below 80 overall.
I think below 80. I think audience score will be higher, but I think that it also happens to be that so I think that as far as Marvel trailers go, probably one of the weakest set of trailers I've seen for a Marvel movie. And it didn't seem quite decisive enough about what it wanted to be, as far as tone and characterization, and Brie Larson is relatively unproven. I would love to be wrong.
Brie Larson is not unproven. She's Oscar nominated.
No, besides The Room, I'm talking about like as far as an action actor, like a character actor like that, in that regard. As far as for like superheroes and stuff like that. This is definitely new territory for her. You know?
Gotcha. So it's going to be nestled in between Ant-Man and Thor: The Dark World, which is the lowest reviewed movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe so far.
I think it'll be below 80. I think it'll be probably above. My guess is probably in the 70s or so.
That's pretty wild because, a lot's riding on it. And Captain Marvel, spoilers, she's the savior. She's the person who defeats Thanos.
Right.
in the comic books.
That's not. A lot of people already, they kind of figured that. It sounds like the cat is kind of a big. They changed the name for the cat. And
Goose the cat.
Yeah.
This could be curious. Well, I think we'll definitely.
Curious Mint?
It's certainly a curious mint, an Altoid, if you will. I think
those aliens are scary.
In what?
Altoids?
Oh.
You didn't know?
No.
How do you think they get so curious? Why are they? I mean, anybody selling anything, they should know. They should know what they are. There should be no curiosity.
You're kidding me. These aliens?
These aliens.
Well, I think on that note, we're gonna have to close it out.
We're gonna have to close it out.
One last question: is there a movie or a video game that you recommend? I'm really scared right now.
Yes, I would. I'd recommend for people to watch Book of Eli for 1,000 different reasons.
And are 999 reasons of those Denzel Washington?
Denzel, with his signature tremble lip when he gets super emotional, is great and spot on. He does a good job at kind of interweaving very gritty cinematography, really gorgeous desaturated skies that move very quickly across the landscape. Really do a great job at setting up this really great post-apocalyptic world that is very just nuts. But it doesn't feel like your traditional raid, Mad Max-esque, scavenger kind of thing. It's like these people are living through hard times, and it's a really interesting kind of a play on and a character. And I think the choreography, the fight stuff, like I rewatched it for the first time in many, many years, and it stands out as a kind of like a black sheep for post-apocalyptic movies.
Hey. Watch your language.
But it's Gary Oldman plays the bad guy in that, and so it's like putting on a trusty old glove for him is so easy, really easy. It's just it's his comfort zone. And Denzel plays a really badass superhero, and he's all about trying to travel across. The whole idea is that he's traveling across the country to get to the West Coast. That's it.
So it's a road trip movie,
sort of, but by foot.
Oh, a foot trip movie.
Foot trip.
So that's great.
It's refreshing. It's well paced. It's just a very interesting movie, and I think sometimes I crave movies that are just like you can tell there's a lot of intent behind them. Like I'm a sucker for urgency. I'm also a sucker for movies that have very intentional framing and shot composition. Movies that are really well acted and edited, great sound design, great effects.
Yeah.
And they're making a statement. They're going out of their comfort zone to do something really kind of interesting and unique, and it's a fun ride.
That is a really great suggestion. I, for one, love post-apocalyptic movies, and I've not seen Book of Eli, so I will absolutely check it out. Also, big Denzel Washington fan. He's kind of an equalizer of sorts, really. I mean, he's always he's a powerful personality, and I just loved him in Chappelle's Show.
What would you recommend? What's your recommendation?
My recommendation is a movie called The People Under the Stairs. It is a horror film.
Is that about Harry Potter?
It is by Harry Potter.
Is it because he lives under the stairs?
The Harry Under the Stairs. But it is. I feel like it's a classic, even though I don't know if many people have seen it. But it plays on a lot of concepts that I think are still very pertinent to today's audiences about it covers domestic abuse,
inner city living,
domestic sick beats, fat beats, thick beats, thoughts,
big bone,
BBMs, BBWs.
Yeah, that treads.
Treads. But in my opinion, it does the murder house thing.
Is there any other
really well? No, I think all houses are murder houses if they've been around for long enough. And there are some really great performances. And like I said, there's domestic abuse. There's sexual abuse overtones. It deals with sensitive subject matter, but it's also really scary. It's a very scary but very It's a wonderfully made movie.
Who directs?
I don't remember. I think it might have been. Let me just look it up real quick.
Is it Wes Craven?
I think it's a Wes Craven movie. Yeah,
Sounds like a Wes Craven movie.
it does.
That is really interesting. Yeah, I remember. I haven't seen the movie in ages, but it's a. First of all, remember that there was a time where actually the name of the movie would be creepy enough.
Yeah,
remember that time?
it is a Wes Craven movie.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
It does, doesn't it?
Like the Hills of Eyes is a kind of a creepier name too.
Yeah, so it's inspired by a true story of parents keeping their children locked in a basement for years.
Wow. Florida.
Yeah, I mean, there's no other place for a horror movie to take place in.
It's crazy.
They should rename Florida Horrorda. And on that, I think we should probably wrap it up.
Yes.
Because Al and I actually we've got a bell. We're going to get fitted for matching suits. We're doing a onesie suit.
The onesie.
Yeah, it's.
Are we gonna wear a horse costume for no reason?
For no reason at all.
Just walk around the street.
We're gonna walk around the street because we want to bring back horse awareness. People just don't give a shit about horses anymore.
They don't.
They are nature's cars.
Right. Why do you call them equestrians if they're not equal?
Exactly. In equestrians. And you know who's leading the charge? The great equalizer himself, Denzel Washington.
Oh. I didn't see that one coming.
Nobody did.
Where can we find you?
You can find me in West Hollywood. You might find me like walking around a Ralph's, maybe a Gelson's if I wanted to overpay for produce.
And then where can you find us?
You can find us in your heart and in your ears if you've subscribed and ring that bell. Get notified every time we upload. But you can also find our content on metachomp.com.
You can find me in the mall. It's going down.
You're there now.
There was a time where we just listened to glorified nursery rhymes over trap beats, and everyone was A-okay.
Oh, yeah. I mean, even Eminem did one of those.
Even Eminem.
I mean, but how much can you really trust a guy who's named after a motherfucking candy? Anyway, this has been Metachomp. I'm Mike Munkachi.
I'm Alex Munkachi.
Oh.
Ow.
Ow. She chicken that clean don't know how to
ring ding dong, ring ding 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 dong.
Ever hear that? Ring ding dong,
ring a ding ding dong.
Ever hear that?